Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
I'm Landon.
I'm Kason.
We've been enjoying doing these podcasts live, so we're going to keep doing them. I'm still
It's a good deal.
ironing out some issues. Hopefully that intro played correctly this time. Anyway, still working some things out. But we want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Nintendo Switch Online service.
Yeah.
Which was just announced. I got a little article up here that we will be pulling from. Essentially, it's going to be... Well, one of the things that they announced that I think is the most controversial that people are talking the most about today is that there will be no virtual console. They're not doing a virtual console service. That doesn't mean that they won't be putting classic games on there. But they are not going to have a virtual console service, and that's something that a lot of people were looking to, hey, can I take all the games I've bought on virtual console and transfer them onto the Switch, sort of similarly to how you could do it with the Wii to the Wii U, right? Yeah, there's like a little bit of a... You have to pay like $1, I think, to make that transfer over,
Unless
or
you
to
went into
download it
just
again
the
or
Wii
something.
part, and then you could play them for free, but you had to be in the Wii section of the Wii U.
Oh, that was
that's
annoying.
Right. That's right.
That was
that's
annoying.
Right. That's right. Anyways, yeah. So a lot of people were hoping they would do something similar. You could just transfer your games over to the Switch. Turns out they're not doing any virtual console whatsoever.
Yeah, that's how what is it? That's how influential, I guess, the NES Mini ended up being to sway the entire company. Like, a premier feature has been removed from their premier console, at least in part because of this little dinky thing that was kind of an afterthought that they just started selling. And all of a sudden they didn't want to compete with themselves, and that started making them a lot of money. And they're like, I don't know. Like, obviously they've gone back and forth. They like when we on what they were going to do with the online thing, but I don't know that the virtual console was going to be this minimal to begin with. I think I was influenced heavily by the mini.
Oh consoles. Yeah, I think that this is completely indicative that there will be an N64 Mini, and there will be a GameCube Mini. Like they're totally foregoing the entire idea. I think of virtual console.
And the virtual console did, I guess. Otherwise, why would they be doing this? You know?
Yeah, and I think that's really unfortunate.
Yes.
I've said many times in the past how easy it would be for them to just put their games out there very, very easily for people to play. Now,
yeah,
as of right now, the service as it's been announced, there will be 20 NES classic titles.
Yeah, but did you look up what they are?
Oh yeah, they're
freaking
bogus.
Like the game that's just called soccer.
Well,
and then there's a game called bowling
to be played online.
And then there's a game,
not all their games.
But they do have a like Legend of Zelda, the very first one, and then the online play for that is you just switch off who's controlling Link. And if they're gonna do that, then I guess all their games could be online. If you just do like a switch off, kind of like a
that is kind of
NES
I guess
games.
The one thing that's cool about it is that the games that they are going to be putting up there, the classic games, the NES games that have been announced, they will have online multiplayer functionality. So you'll be able to play The Legend of Zelda with a buddy online or whatever.
But you're switching off. I don't know.
I guess that's true. It's like a digital switching off of the controller, right?
Yeah.
So, like when my brother and I used to play Super Mario Brothers 3, or even the first Mario Brothers, it'd be player 1 and player 2. And it would sort of, if I died on the level, then he would have a chance to go in and play it, right, as Luigi or Green Mario.
Green, exactly. Donkey Kong Country kind of did that, but they still had a co-op
mode
sort of feature.
There were two different,
but only one person was ever actually controlling him at any given time.
So I mean, that's kind of cool, and I wish there would be some kind of indication or promise that we will bring Super Nintendo games to this service. We will bring N64 games to this service. But as it stands right now, just being those 20 NES games, like that is totally not worth getting the online service for, if that's what you're looking for.
Anyone paying the online service just to get some NES games is crazy.
Yeah, totally.
Not worth it at all. And it's definitely... Go ahead.
The fact that it's launching in September tells me that Smash is launching in September. Because when you look at their
Probably.
list of
And
games,
that's how they're going to sell.
that's
them
going to be a huge
together.
push. You want to play
Mhm.
Smash online, you got to pay
Yeah.
for this. That they,
Huh.
they, you know, when they list the games that you can play online, it cracked me up that one of the games they would mention was like that Sushi Striker game. Or whatever.
Yeah, I saw
I was
that.
thinking,
And
like, there
they
aren't
can't-
enough games for them to bring up to even fill it out without having to include something like Sushi Striker. But then I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, Smash isn't on this list, and it's coming out this year.
Mhm.
And this launches in September. I think Smash is coming in September.
That's
in
actually
line with this.
I
launch.
actually think that's a very, very good point. Because, you know, by the way,
You
I
heard it
work
here
at
first,
I work
people.
at a place called Game Tyrant. They run an expo every year, like an expo for a Smash tournament. And we've been trying to decide when we should hold the event because of this new Smash Brothers game. We want to have it in there. So it's like, but I think you're right. Like, it's totally going to be fetching September because that's when the
But it
service
might be
is launching.
September 30th, so be careful.
Yeah, we were talking about like first week in November because we were thinking maybe
Sure.
October or something like that. But
That was around the time it was last year.
yeah. So, anyways, that's a very interesting point. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, just totally ditching Virtual Console in.
I wasn't expecting them to ditch it to this extent. That is pretty disappointing.
Well, they
in-
stalled so much that it was like you knew they're doing something weird.
But
Even
you didn't
still,
think
they're
they
doing
were
something
taking
weird.
features out, though.
Of what?
Like, of the online, you know, when it's like, oh, we're delaying our launch because we're taking features away that were originally going to be
But they
part
never
of it.
announced Virtual
They didn't,
Console.
but they did talk about how, you know, they talked about how you were going to be able to play a different game each month, and they were going to have they were going to
And
do
then-
something with it that they're no longer doing.
Well, and then they announced late last year that it would just be like a bunch of games you would always have access
Right.
to.
And they're like, that's basically what I'm talking about. Like, I know that they announced it last year, but before that, they've been like changing what the Virtual Console setup was going to be from since the beginning. And I don't know if it was always going to be like, oh, this month is Tetris, this month is
Well, those were also
soccer.
Those
Like,
were
I thought they were going to
be
be a little more. You know.
Those were going to be online capable games also,
Mm.
even for
But
the beginning.
if the Legend of Zelda is online capable, any game is online capable. Like the way that they're doing it here.
But it was like
It's like,
the original announcement was
jeez.
like we're going to have these NES, and the thing that they didn't announce this time was the SNES games, because originally it was going to be NES and SNES.
That's more or less
And-
what I'm talking about when they're scaling back.
Huh.
But
Yeah, we got there's a comment here from O'Cracks though. He says a leak suggested that the Virtual Console will be repurposed as Nintendo Classics, and that GBA and NES games will be available this summer, and GameCube and SNES will be available early next year from the
something-
same source that predicted correctly the Nintendo Online Service information last week.
They
okay.
it makes more sense in a lot of ways to not have to have a special store for old games and then a special store for new games. You know what I mean?
It's just all the eShop.
It's all in the
just-
same store. And
Hmm.
like, for example, on the 3DS, I bought the Mega Man collection. That was one of the first things I bought on my 3DS through Capcom. It wasn't a virtual console
Yeah,
thing. It was
yeah.
Capcom's own Mega Man collection of all these. And I bought it because they
Hmm.
discounted it really heavily.
Hmm.
And like Nintendo kind of had an iron fist from my understanding of how the pricing worked on virtual console.
Oh, really?
So like a lot of games were priced probably too high, but Nintendo's so averse to discounting anything, even
Yeah.
30
30 years later.
their stuff. Yeah, so I feel like Nintendo. This actually could really just be a good thing because Sega's coming out with their stuff. You want to play Sega stuff? you'll be able
Rare
to do
has
it.
kind of got their
Yeah.
replay something or other going on.
There's an SNK collection. There's I'm trying to think what else. There's arcade collections coming up. So it's really just a matter of Nintendo's own games. If you want to play
At this
Ocarina of
point,
Time,
yeah.
you know, on the
That's
Switch, who knows when you'll be able to do that.
Yeah, this report that I'm reading says, here, where was it? It was right here. Though the Virtual Console banner is not set to come to Switch, that doesn't mean some form of it won't be available in the future. Nintendo could very easily be rebranding the service, which would be kind of in line with what Cracks was saying. Rebranding the service in which we purchase classic games individually. Nintendo's careful wording in responding to questions about Virtual Console's lack of presence on the Nintendo Switch alludes to that a bit. So it could. I didn't see any video announcement for this. I'm just kind of reading different articles and things, but it seems like they were not ready to say altogether you cannot purchase individual classic games on the Switch. So could be the case that Okrax is right in that they will just rebrand it and call it something different. But the online service will include classic games that can be played online with other people. So that's kind of a separate deal altogether from just buying classic games individually, it seems. So that would be nice. But I do still hold to the fact that there is absolutely, it's like guaranteed we're going to get an N64 classic mini or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
probably
I guess
this
that would
year.
be this year, right?
That makes
or a Game Boy.
that one and
something.
the GameCube one makes sense to me because the controllers are so weird that like it's hard when you emulate those to
on the Switch.
figure out a comparable controller setup.
Because I don't like it when they do. Oh, your right stick is the C buttons, like because it's a stick. It just doesn't feel right to me.
I can sort of get used to like the C stick on the GameCube being emulated as one of the control sticks on, say, like a PlayStation controller.
I can get
it sort of works, even though but the C buttons,
like a square.
Yeah, it's like anyways. But the C buttons for N64 games, dude, that sucks to emulate on a different controller. It just doesn't.
I remember I was playing Legend of Zelda Master's Quest, Ocarina of Time, that GameCube release that they came out with, and it, they just didn't. I can't remember exactly what the setup was. It was either you could use the C stick or they had like the Z button. No, I think you had to use the C stick. Yeah, it was a pain in the butt.
Allowed, by the time the Wii U came around, they allowed for remapping controllers. Like which was really nice.
Yeah,
because
the Switch just, I don't know. Does it have enough buttons? Probably does have
same number as the Wii U.
Yeah.
Anyways,
actually, if you can count those,
it's gonna be it's fairly cheap. I think it's $20 a year.
Yeah, that's like $2 a month. That's less than $2 a month.
Very competitively priced. If you're just looking to continue playing Splatoon online, or when Smash comes out to play Smash online, it's not badly priced at all.
That's the funny thing, because Smash is gonna sell like crazy, but Mario Kart Deluxe 8 sold like 10 million copies. Splatoon 2 has sold like 4 or 5 million. If you really want. Okay, Mario Kart, you can still play with people, whatever. But Splatoon, it's like you have to be online if you're going to play that game.
90%.
There's 4 or 5 million people who are going to have to pay $20 for the Nintendo's online deal if they want to play that game, basically ever, unless they just want to do campaign mode, which isn't very, it's not as good.
It makes me wonder if in the future they'll offer it kind of like other services do, where you'll get a month for free when you make a new account.
Oh, like Xbox Live.
You have to pay.
Yeah.
They might just take advantage of all of us and the very first go around, and maybe in 2019 they'll start doing promos after they get all their Nintendo fanboys.
Yeah. In any case, it's been announced. If you guys want to know more information, any basically major gaming news source will have a bunch of that out for you to give you the details. But overall,
I like the price, I guess. I don't
I'm not
virtual console.
One thing they haven't talked about is cloud saves.
Whatever.
Because that's going to be a feature.
Yeah,
for instance, saying Splatoon sold over 6 million. I felt like it was higher than that.
Oh, 6 million? Oh, dang.
Cloud saves is a pretty big deal.
Oh, the cloud saves. Yes, good point.
That's and then save transfers. So
that's pretty
hopefully that means that when your Switch bites the dust, that
you can still grab your save files.
Yeah,
you don't need to send it into Nintendo and
so you're and I wonder if they're going to restrict it to like 1 save per game, 2 saves per game. I don't know, because I was looking at how much data just my Breath of the Wild saves have taken up, and it's a good chunk. So it's like they might be restricting that somehow. But a Breath of the Wild save versus I don't know, probably a Mario Kart save. Breath of the Wild save is probably way more data.
Probably a lot bigger, yeah.
Yeah, it would suck for your Switch to break, and then you got to freaking beat all 120 shrines again. Right? Like, it'd be nice if you had a save and not have to start over and all that crap again, looking for all that stuff. So that is a great feature. That is something that I think they're doing right. Okay, let's move into our next topic. This one comes from Dude McGuy, who I believe is watching right now. You get to have your question answered
you said
live.
Podcast, sweet.
You get to have your question answered live, dude. It's unprecedented.
There's nothing better. Dark Pixel is leading the way in technological advancements.
Nintendo question. Nintendo is well known for their great first-party software. If you compare the first-party games across console generations, which Nintendo console, not including the Switch, do you think had the overall strongest lineup of first-party games?
Which console?
Which Nintendo console had the best lineup of first-party Nintendo games?
First party.
And this isn't at launch. This is just across the whole life
across the board. Yeah.
Wow.
Which Nintendo console had the best Nintendo games?
Super Nintendo is what I always have to go to. I think the Super Nintendo is the best console ever made and had the best games ever made. And you're missing a lot, but if I had to pick one, that'd be the one.
So hold on, let me pull something up real quick, so we'll know. We'll have a little bit of an ability to kind of judge which games.
Yeah.
Okay, so
just the classic RPGs. You just got Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy.
No. This is Nintendo. Nintendo.
Oh, and we're
only
Nintendo
first. Only Nintendo. Yeah, only Nintendo first party games.
So is Mario RPG then?
Okay, so the NES had
Nintendo,
NES had games like Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, Metroid, Punch-Out, and Star Tropics. The SNES had Super Mario World, Super Mario Kart, Super Metroid, F-Zero, Zelda Link to the Past, Star Fox, Earthbound, Super Mario RPG, which is it was developed by Square,
but they owned the license.
That's true. I guess we'll count it. And then Donkey Kong.
We gotta count Camelot's games too, and all that.
Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3. So that's a strong case for the SNES.
That is good. Not
the Donkey Kong
the reasons
Country
I mentioned, but yeah.
N64, Mario 64, Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Mario Kart 64, F-Zero.
Just those three are pretty.
Yeah, Star Fox 64, which is huge for me. I love that game. Mario Party 1 through 3, Super Smash Brothers, huge. Kirby 64, Donkey Kong 64, Paper Mario, Banjo-Kazooie, and Jet Force Gemini.
64 is looking pretty good.
64 is pretty freaking great. GameCube.
I thought it would be.
GameCube, Luigi's Mansion, Pikmin 1 and 2, Super Smash Brothers Melee, huge. Mario Kart Double Dash, Super Mario Sunshine, huge. Metroid Prime 1 and 2, freaking huge. Animal Crossing, Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, also huge for me. Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door. Then we have the Wii with Wii Sports, Metroid Prime 3, Zelda Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, Mario Kart Wii, Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, those are huge. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Smash Bros. Brawl, Xenoblade Chronicles. And then for the Wii U, New Super Mario Bros. U, which I liked, but a lot of people were getting tired of that by then. Super Mario 3D World, Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3? Yeah, that's true. Pikmin 3 did come out of that. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I think that other Donkey Kong Country game, I think Donkey Kong Country Returns, that was on the Wii, so that should be included there. Mario Kart 8, Smash Brothers for Wii U, Splatoon, Super Mario Maker, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Zelda Breath of the Wild. Okay, so those are some examples of. I lean.
Looking pretty good.
I lean to the 64 a bit because that's kind of my mom didn't let us get a Super Nintendo. She didn't like how much we played the NES, so I didn't have a SNES in the house. However, I will admit the SNES has probably, it's not even a doubt, the stronger lineup in total. If we look at the entire library, SNES is way better than the N64.
Yeah,
but
it's almost like the not success of the N64 pushed Nintendo to do a better job, I guess, with first party stuff, because that's kind of all that.
Or you could look at it and say it's a good thing they did a good job.
Otherwise,
it would have really bombed. But the N64 is kind of where I came back into console gaming again when we got that. So games like Ocarina of Time blew my mind so hard, and Star Fox 64 and stuff like that.
Mario 64.
I just have way more nostalgia tied to the N64 than I do to the SNES.
So for people in the chat, this is kind of what I also was not confused about, but what I just kind of missed. This is first-party Nintendo. We're deciding just based on first-party Nintendo games which console was the best. I agree, SNES, total best console ever. But when we just look at Nintendo's first-party releases, man, the 64
is pretty
64 is stacked.
Yeah. Like, I would say just on the strength of Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Star Fox 64 alone, like for me, my personal enjoyment of those games, like I have to go N64. But I would think that the GameCube's pretty close for me too, because I really liked Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. That was my first Fire Emblem game that I played. The Wind Waker is freaking unbelievable Zelda game. And I really, really enjoyed Mario Sunshine. But I really like Mario 64 too. Like I don't know which of those two I thought was better.
Sunshine. Sunshine's probably the better overall game, but you've got to look at the time period that 64 came out, because Mario 64 kind of changed gaming.
Nobody's talking about Pilot Wings.
The way that Sunshine did.
Pilot Wings was pretty sweet. Yeah, I think ultimately I'm gonna go with the N64. That's gonna be my choice for that.
I'm going N64.
I have to. I have to.
Also, Pokemon Stadium, which was
Stadium was
Snap. That was sick.
Pokemon Snap was also sick.
Oh yeah.
Micah Oliver saying GBA. I don't know if we might just be talking about home consoles, but the GBA was also great.
A lot of good stuff.
So,
boy, I don't think any handheld system would quite measure up to the 64 though.
All right, so yeah, that's what I would pick, N64. But they're all really good. Holy crap! Like even the NES, like I played Punch Out like crazy as a kid. And Mario Brothers 3, like dude, just freaking so much time I put into that. So they're always solid, but N64 has the most nostalgia, so I'm going with that.
Gotta do it.
Good question, Dude McGuy. Thank you for asking. Moving on to Matthew Alder for topic number 3. Are there any games which are widely revered as classics, but you think may have actually aged very poorly? I think we all agree on this one.
Yeah, we all agree.
This is actually really funny given what we just said.
So the answer to this one is, you guys think, just really quick, I want to hear if anybody else has some ideas. Put in the comment section what games you think are revered as classics, but that have aged very poorly in reality.
Oh, Earthbound. Someone just said Earthbound was not mentioned in the SNES first party lineup.
But in America it came out as a Game Boy Advance.
I think it was mentioned.
Not in America.
No, it came out.
In Japan, it was developed for the SNES, but I think when it was released, it was finally. Oh no, I'm thinking of Mother 3.
No,
yeah, Mother 3.
Yeah, you're right. Earthbound.
Earthbound was an SNES game. Yeah.
Huh. Okay,
Pirate Chess says Mario 64 has aged horribly. I don't agree.
I haven't played it in 12 years.
I played it kind of recently. I thought it was great.
FF7. I mean, we're not just talking visually here. We're talking the whole experience.
FF7 didn't age horribly.
Superman 64.
Superman 64
was not good. Was not good originally.
This was worse 10 years later.
E.T. These games were never classics, people.
E.T.
Bruno De Mattis is saying every NES game ever. You guys said that before we started. I don't agree, because games like Punch-Out and Super Mario 3 are still as easy to play today and as great as ever.
The arcade system, like just the 2-button like Punch-Out. I mean, like that'll never get old.
Mega Man's
Mega Man, just the shooters.
Someone's trying to say Star Fox 64. Nah.
J.R. Shire.
That game plays.
J.R.
Shire. J.R. Shire guessed it.
GoldenEye 64. No, that's the one that we all came up with. Anybody who's played a modern shooter from basically Halo on through Call of Duty or anything else, if you guys go back and play GoldenEye 64, you will be so absolutely frustrated with the control scheme. It is so bad.
Yep. Without a question, GoldenEye.
Well.
Without a question, for me, it's GoldenEye. In fact, I think GoldenEye Jet Force Gemini is actually a game that aged pretty badly too.
As a third person, I haven't
played that since I played it originally. Jeez.
Yeah, that's 2-player mode.
I remember at the time though, it was hard to aim.
Yeah,
really hard to aim.
Totally. Because you'd always end up shooting not the Jinjos. What are they called? Jinjos was Banjo-Kazooie, I think. What are the little
Ewok things?
The little Ewoks. Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. I'd always accidentally hit them though.
J.R. Shire is asking what he wins. What did he win?
What did you win? You win You win.
You win. Like,
You won.
Boot up GoldenEye.
Good job. Yeah, go play the
Congratulations.
game. Experience
you
a classic that you don't ever want to play again.
Oh, man. I tried to finish Superman 64 Prince Revolver. I tried with Parker really, 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 really hard to finish it. And I do not believe it's possible to finish that game. It sucks really bad.
Someone's saying Star Wars Rogue Squadron aged poorly. I
don't think so.
No, like they're still kind of.
We did play that last year and a half ago, maybe. I don't think it aged poorly. I think it's still pretty.
There are almost no games in that genre anymore, so it's kind of weird.
That's true.
It's like if you want to play
the genre itself didn't
go back
age.
to the,
and so how could? That's kind of funny.
Bruno De Mattis is saying the problem with Mario 3 is having no save function. That's only true if you're playing on an NES, but you can download that game on the Wii U or something, and they have save states. So it totally fixes that. But playing GoldenEye is just like so clunky.
It's borderline unplayable. There's
really
still
bad.
Some people who are really like your friend Matt Pace,
yeah.
Maybe that's why I didn't want to play, because last time I played it, he was playing it.
Well, and he's still really good. So.
And I was like, he couldn't get the controls down because without the dual sticks, it's just, and the auto aim feature, it's just so weird. But he was so good at it, and I just was so bad.
What was in Superman in GoldenEye? Didn't they have where you press the R button and then you could like manually aim around?
Strafe.
No, you could aim around.
You could aim the reticle,
but you couldn't move while you did that. Your dude would just stand still.
That was so touchy, especially on that freaking control stick. Like it was impossible to aim because it would recenter exactly. So you had you had to like just dude. But if you're moving in a direction, right, it's gonna keep moving that way. You can't move up and then stop on a thing and aim at it because it's gonna keep moving up.
Yeah.
And then if you let go of the stick, it centers again.
It was going.
Dude, it was so bad. So yeah, that would be my answer for sure. I think GoldenEye aged horrifically, especially with control schemes that make way more sense now for first-person shooters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cracks Dark History on Superman 64. I could probably do that.
You should. You totally should.
That's not a bad idea at all. I absolutely should. That would be fun.
Totally should do it. Okay, thank you, Matthew Alder, for the question. Let's move on now to Chocolate Rob's topic here.
Oh, Micah Oliver said Spyro. That's actually a good point. I have played Spyro lately.
It wasn't bad.
That was before. It was like, well, I guess it was technically after Mario 64, but that controller, I don't know. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, the draw distance sucks. The PlayStation just was not well equipped for a 3D platformer. Although Crash Bandicoot, you could. But Spyro, those controls are really.
The early ones, like the first Tomb Raider, super jacked.
Yeah.
Oh,
really
totally.
Yeah. That did not age.
The original Tomb Raider, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I
Tomb Raider. Prince knows what's up. Tomb Raider was.
Yeah.
I was trying to play that on a PC actually.
We did have that. We did.
There's like a jump where you had to jump over some water that we would do over and over, and couldn't do it.
The original Resident Evil, I see that too. I totally see that.
Hasn't aged well from a certain point of view.
For a certain point of view. I've had a lot of discussions about tank controls. Tank controls in like on the Patreon streams because I was playing Jade Cocoon recently, and that has tank controls, and I was like, tank controls, but people were like, no, with those freaking always changing cameras, tank controls are great because you are always moving forward.
That's a good point. I guess.
Instead of like I would say Final Fantasy X-2, I'm running changes camera, I go now forward is backwards, and I run back to the last screen like back and forth.
I hate it when they don't follow the 180-degree rule.
It's
like the old PS1 RPG.
And you're like,
you're holding forward, and then all of a sudden it changes, and you go right back.
Yeah.
So you have to go until the until the screen goes, and then let go.
By the way, I learned recently. You guys might have already known this, but the voice acting for the original Resident Evil, the English actors were told to read at like half speed.
Really?
That's why it sounds so
serious. What?
Because it was made for the Japanese market, and they weren't trying to act for Westerners, trying to act for Japanese people who wanted to feel like they were watching a Western movie.
That's crazy.
They talk in a way that's a little easier for someone to pick up who's not very good at English.
Wow,
that is weird, man.
Yeah.
What the heck?
That explains a lot, though.
That explains a lot, actually. That's funny. Wow.
All right, let's move on to Rob's question. Do you think that RPGs tend toward having a male character as the main protagonist, drawn out of his at least seemingly normal mundane life by a mysterious female character rather than the other way around? A mundane girl and a mysterious boy would equal Twilight. He's giving that as an example. If
because
so,
there are no game examples.
If so, is it because developers think that all RPG gamers are nerds that dream of having an exciting, mysterious girlfriend to pull them out of their humdrum lives? Would an RPG that takes a female main character more seriously, so not FF10-2, he says in parentheses, be more interesting and original to you? It's a hard question to answer because I have a hard time thinking of examples of either way in games. A character that's drawn out of his humdrum life by a mysterious female character. I can't think of a video game. Maybe
I can think of movies and stories, but yeah, I don't think that happens very often in video games. As much.
I'm just trying to think, especially of RPGs where like there's a male main character and some girl comes in and like.
I mean, eventually girls enter the stories and you end up for whatever reason doing things possibly, to help them or they help you. But like with Link to the Past, I think you first hear a voice that would be Zelda talking to you, and then you go out after your dad. Or is it your dad? Is it Zelda who talks to you?
Or your uncle or whatever. Yeah, you
hear that voice. I think it is. That's kind of how Breath of the Wild works too, I guess. But it's not. Breath of the Wild is probably the best example of that. But that's so different because it's just an lunar, like an invisible voice, as opposed to like
Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Trinity from The Matrix,
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is an example of a mysterious girl pulling a male character out of his humdrum life. Like apparently Lunar. People are saying Lunar 2.
Some games I have
Final Fantasy X. I don't know if I would count Final Fantasy X.
Oh, Mario RPGs is not a... Sorry, you're bringing something else up. But the Mario RPG thing, just because Mario is going to rescue the princess doesn't mean the princess called him out of his mundane existence. I think there's a little bit of a difference there, especially when Twilight was brought up earlier.
Yeah. I think in Final Fantasy X, it's Auron, who's a male character.
Yeah, and he's the one that kind of pulls you out. And then, there's the girl, Yuna.
Chrono Trigger is a good example. Chrono Trigger is a very good example.
Sure.
Chrono goes into the Millennial Fair, and Marl is there and introduces herself, and then she gets pulled through the freaking wormhole or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he goes after her. So that's true.
Super Mario Bros. The movie. See, this is a trope that's often explored in film. Yes, I don't think it's often explored in video games.
Would Kid making Surge join her count? That actually is a pretty good one. I think Kid does get him sort of started on the adventure in Chrono Cross. So yes, I think Chrono Cross would count. So in Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, this trope exists.
Final Fantasy VI, I guess it's
you start
because there's not like a
the main character
really.
Terra is a
Terra is kind of
game.
She's kind of pulled out by Locke though, so Locke rescues her and sort
of. That's
like,
true. That's a good point. That's kind of a little bit of the opposite, huh?
So maybe that's an example of the opposite. So
are we taking the question early?
I'm just trying to think of examples because
I know, but because I keep disqualifying things like Princess Peach. No,
the deal is if we think this is something that RPG makers are doing because there's people who maybe are bored of their own life and et cetera.
There's something to be said there,
but I don't feel like there's enough RPGs doing it to say that it's
a trend
like
an overarching trend or trope.
I don't see that happening very often.
But there's definitely an appeal to that kind of story, but I mean, like you're saying, it goes both ways too. Like there's, especially in anime, there's tons of anime where it's a boring mundane girl with some spectacular the hottest boy in school.
Oh, dude,
like Korean dramas.
Korean dramas are constantly regular girls and some crazy mysterious guy coming in. That's like every Korean drama in existence.
Every now and then, it is a mundane guy, and then the girl, like strong woman double soon.
The one where she's my girlfriend is something make you today or something like that.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh crap.
But there are occasionally the woman's the crazy one, and those ones end up being really fun. Legend of the Blue Sea was like that too.
Yeah. So I don't know. On the whole, I don't think it's like a trend that is so prevalent that I would say one way or the other, like this is a purposeful thing. Developers know, like, oh, all these basement dwelling nerds who want like an awesome, cool girlfriend. We better make a game story that has a mysterious girl come wisp the male character away. I don't think that's
I don't think that
necessarily
is
what they're thinking. But it would
Someone
be
brought up Kingdom Hearts, but I would not.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's
say that again. Even you do mention, Kairi is a princess and all that, but she gets dealt with pretty quickly, and she's basically unconscious for most of the game. So it's like she's not calling you to adventure. You're just trying to go rescue her, which I see that happens a lot in games, but that's not really the question being asked.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, Rob, I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer to you.
Sorry, Rob. Sorry. I don't know. I feel like we didn't have enough examples we could come up with to see like a trend. I'm not sure. Sample size was too low.
But what do you actually know? Never mind. I was going to say Final Fantasy VIII.
You know what? That actually is I think that is a good example.
Does that
FF8 well? Is. FF7 probably is too, because Tifa is the one who finds Cloud
that gets you to go. Yeah. Exactly. She's always trying to get you to go out and help with their adventure, which you eventually do. So
you could argue 9 is that way too, because 9 is very much a boy meets girl story too.
That's true, but in that sense, they're both on their own separate adventures.
Yeah.
And then they meet and go on. But I think it still does work. So those early Final Fantasies are pretty good examples.
FF9, you could argue the other way around, because she wants to get out, and on the same day that she's trying to get out, mysterious boy comes and is just happens to kidnap her, right? And she wanted that, so you could argue the other way around.
It just happens that she wanted to be kidnapped, but that's true. So that could be a counter example. In which way? Okay, so which game do you like better, Final Fantasy VIII or Final Fantasy IX? That's basically the question.
It's tough though, because that's a common thing in like the hero's journey. There's a mysterious person who
Someone
takes you to the other side.
It's usually a sage or an older Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? It's usually not a young girl your age that you could date, like Twilight or Boy or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's usually an older person. So I think that would be where the difference is. Would you rather be taken out of your mundane life by somebody who's going to teach you, or somebody who's basically your level and you're going on adventure together?
And true to RPGs, pretty much everyone is like very close to the same age.
They're all like 16 years old.
In a lot of them, not all
anime
of them, but
too.
In a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so that might be why those characters tend to be younger when they do occur in some JRPGs.
In Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, I think that one's actually pretty. It's not the original reason why you're going out and doing stuff, but eventually Sheik is kind of the one that's telling you what to do, where to go, kind of pushing you along on your adventure. That's not very, I don't know, that's not like Twilight.
But unless you're Breezy, you're not supposed to know that Sheik is a girl in the first place.
Yeah, not know that. True. She didn't. Well, she did because she played Smash Brothers. And so the whole time we're playing the game, and I'm like, haha, she has no idea. And she would point out frequently how girlish Sheik looked, and I was like, but then she told me it was because she played Smash, and I'm like, dang it. Spoiler alert in that game.
Smash should come with a big spoiler alert on the title.
It should. Don't use
absolutely should.
It should be rated E.
It should be called Super Spoiler Brothers.
Super Spoiler Brothers. Actually, yes, because there's some Fire Emblem spoilers in there too.
Yeah, there are.
Absolutely, there are. Okay.
But I would have to go back on my Ocarina of Time example though, because his mundane life was not called out of I mean, I guess he had a dream about the girl, but she didn't really like pull him into adventure.
Yeah, it was totally the Deku.
It was more
tree.
the Deku tree. Yeah, that was, and that's more what we talked about before with the hero's journey, where it was like a sagely old wise figure as opposed to, gosh, it's hard. Sorry, Chocolate Rob, we tried.
Tough question.
We tried, but we just can't find as many examples.
Tough
as
question.
we thought.
Okay, next one is
JR. Ruined Ocarina of Time straight up.
JR Shire, who is also here live with us. You get to have your question answered live as well. What are your thoughts about leaks with new projects or behind-the-scenes news of games making that companies do not want released? Are they damaging to the creation of new media or harmless to new media?
Well, Unhyphenated American, thank you very much, first of all.
Thank you.
Oh, we got a super chat.
We got one, but it wasn't a question. It was just a good job. So
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Unhyphenated American. Appreciate it, man.
And yeah, so back to this the leak thing. I think it harms the revealing information too early can be damaging. We've seen that 100 times. Final Fantasy Versus 13 is just like an example of that, but it happens a lot. Sometimes things are revealed too early, and if a leak is revealing something ahead of when it should be revealed, and these companies are timing things very specifically, I think that can be damaging for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that damaging. But I will say, didn't Nintendo or didn't somebody do something like a game was leaked? I think it was Smash Brothers actually for the Wii U and the 3DS that some leak happened and Sakurai got so mad that he.
Not the adventure mode.
The adventure mode was only a 3DS feature or something like that.
What do they call that mode?
I can't remember what they call it. I don't even know if that's true though. I just heard that. Is that a confirmed rumor?
Emissary, the freaking thing.
The challenge mode.
Well, he was mad about the cutscenes and things getting leaked onto YouTube, right?
Yeah, the fact that there were cutscenes in the Wii adventure mode. I forget what it's called, Subspace Emissaries or something. So all of those videos got uploaded to YouTube, and he was so pissed that you could watch them on YouTube that he did not want to do a Subspace Emissaries in the Wii U version with cutscenes and stuff.
And that's what
which is for such a stupid reason.
That was him overreacting. That was him damaging his own product.
Yeah.
Because of the leaks, as opposed to the leaks being what damaged it.
Well, it's kind of like a Schrodinger's cat scenario. I feel like once you observe
what was actually going to happen,
change the system by observing it. So as soon as the people working on something are here's all the parts come together, and then an aspect gets leaked out of context, and then people react a certain way, and you have to know that changes something, right, about the project. You imagine they've got some feedback, and that now they're not working nobody should be working in a vacuum, but I do feel like that probably changes things. Sure. Leaks per se are kind of a controversial thing because it's basically always somebody breaking a contract.
Yes.
And but people eat it up, and so
that could be damaging to the
gossip.
Unity of their team.
But it's video game gossip because whenever there is a leak, it's out of context. So
that's true.
You don't know why they're doing what they're doing. You just saw a cutscene or rather usually a screenshot or something from somebody, and then there's people that try and build up reputations based on these leaks, and it's a wacky side thing. We saw that leading up to the Switch launch. It was just and it's still happening. What's his name on Twitter who constantly has fake leaks and is running a Discord?
Liam Robertson called him out recently.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but
I can't remember the guy's name. But so there's people that want him so bad they're willing to believe anything. And there can be people out there just misleading people with stuff you don't know until the final thing comes out. But audio's getting fuzzy on our side.
Oh, it's starting to do the popping thing.
Oh shoot! Sorry, guys.
This is a reoccurring issue. We don't really have any method to fix it. It is just I don't even know what.
I don't have Google Fiber anymore, so internet gets expensive when you're out of Google Fiber zone.
It should fix eventually. It shouldn't stay like this forever. I would say that for the most part, leaks can be damaging, and I say that for two reasons. One, because I think it's damaging for a piece of information to be revealed too early in any case, even if the company reveals a piece of information too early.
That's kind of what I was bringing up.
Like, yeah, it's not a good thing. Because if something changes, then people thought they were getting something they don't get. Right. But so in that case, I think leaks are bad. But also, when game development starts to run long and people start to get impatient for something, and there's information leaks about the trouble happening within the studio and the game, that can really start hurting a studio's reputation, people's perception or idea of what the quality of the game will be. So, yeah, I think leaks, for the most part, are not good because you don't know if they're true. People are going to argue about whether or not they're true, and there's going to be a lot of contention about it.
Just let the company do things on their own timeline. Like, there's no need to try to force them to do something. They're making the game. They aren't not making the game. They're making it. Just wait. Yeah.
So overall, I mean, I don't know, I guess there could be leaks that Herpaderf says leaks are bad, okay? I guess if there's leaks about things that are really cool, that maybe the company was just waiting a month to announce at E3, but it's like, it's a positive piece of news and people can get excited about it. I don't know, maybe that can be seen as not a negative leak, but I think for the most part.
Sometimes they leak on purpose, right?
I've heard of that.
It's a marketing tactic, but I don't think that's what's happening. But, can you imagine if people leak things about like your own life? Just what I mean? Like somebody shares information about your life like out of context. The other people want to know what you're doing so bad. It would just be infuriating.
Basically gossip.
It is gossip. The gossip's leaks. Leaks are gossip.
Leaks are gossip. Oh, that's funny.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Then you've got things like the possible Final Fantasy VII Remake leak that we talked about last week. That's like, that could be damaging because of people's perception of the product, right? I think a lot of people, depending on how Square Enix plays this, right? Depending on what they do, as they market the game to get people re-interested. Like in 2015, people were stoked out of their mind about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now it's 3 years later, and they don't seem to have progressed any in the entire development of that game. It can be very disappointing. It's off-putting. I think a lot of people may be like, you know what? Screw it. I don't really care about that game anymore. And maybe some percentage of those people won't actually buy the game. Whereas if, leaks that weren't saying the company's in trouble in developments, they threw everything away and they're redoing from scratch. People who, weren't so upset about that would still buy it. People who are upset about that maybe just kind of don't care anymore. So it can hurt your company's perception, and it can possibly hurt game sales by the time the game comes out. If people just think it had such a troubled development that it's not worth playing.
That's why I'm not seeing this Han Solo movie, because I've read enough crap.
You know what?
What happened?
Me too. With Ron.
Yeah, that's true.
No,
it's probably,
that's true.
It can still be good.
That's true.
I'm not going to go out there and spend money like. I'll watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, wait till it comes out. Or Disney's probably gonna have their own streaming thing by then.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very good point, though. Like, I actually totally agree. When I heard that the original directors of that Han Solo movie had been taken off, and like the whole thing had been because they were going too comical with it. They wanted it. The studio wanted it to be more serious, and like they reshot like basically the whole movie again.
Yep.
That was immediately I said, oh, that's going to be bad. And I think a lot of people were saying the same thing until the new trailers came out. I think the movie
trailer makes it look a little better.
Yeah,
I would admit that.
With the trailers being released, I've seen that public perception sort of change a little bit to where people are more excited now, and the trailers get more likes than dislikes and stuff.
And that was always going to happen, but what percentage of people aren't persuaded by that? That's some percentage. They did lose some sales, like Landon.
But before those trailers started dropping, everyone was talking like it was going to be horrible. I remember that there were articles being published that said Disney expects it to bomb.
I heard
like
that, yeah.
like they
All
knew
the
it's going to be
gossip.
terrible. Like, you know, and so like there was definitely a very negative public perception of that movie, I would say even 4 months ago. And they've turned it around with their marketing, and that's going to help it succeed. But you're right. What percentage of people have not been persuaded? I haven't been by the trailers
Right.
at all.
Well, that's another funny thing. They reshot almost all, well, not maybe almost all, but I think more than half of Rogue One before that movie came out.
Oh,
and that had director troubles as well.
I
And
thought
they
it was
had
just like the
massive.
ending they
Yeah.
reshot.
So they brought in a new writer, and Gareth Edwards was really upset about it.
Yeah.
And this writer received screenplay credit. And according to the Writers Guild or something, you have to have made alterations, or you had to have affected at least 33% of a variance of the story from. You can't just come in, change some things, and now you get the credit.
So he also directed.
So he at least rewrote 33% of, and then he directed those reshoots.
So it depends on how they're interpreted, because he directed and he also oversaw post-production.
So yeah, but the specific things he's credited for, those guilds or whatever have their own rules for that. But yeah,
how do you
he was
measure that?
Crazy involved.
How do you measure that? Correct?
Word count? I don't know. I have no idea. But anyways, it seemed as though there were way more changes than maybe we originally thought. And the Gareth Edwards movie was pretty dang different from the one we ended up actually watching. But he stayed on sort of. But it seems like the same thing happened here. Star Wars Episode 9, they trashed their director. They have a new one also. Like, this is bad press. This does affect people's perception of the way that Disney is handling, you know, a franchise.
It's hard to cover up a director changing, you know, like versus a leak being
That's a
like,
big
oh,
deal.
someone leaked our battle system and then we changed it later.
Yeah.
Versus like people will find out that you know, so and so is not directing this game anymore by the time it comes out.
You know what though? Because talking about Final Fantasy 15, how they changed directors, right? I think it was a 1-to-1 comparison. What if we never knew that Nomura was the original director to begin with, and that the first trailer we ever saw for Final Fantasy 15 was the one in 2014 or 2013, whenever that demo
when
came
it was
out,
rebranded.
when it was rebranded. And it was Tabata, and Nomura's name wasn't, you know,
ever attached to
it. How many people? Because I hear a lot online. I see a lot online of people saying, "I want to play Nomura's Final Fantasy 15," or "Oh, Nomura's would have been so much better," or whatever.
It doesn't exist.
It's a totally different game. As far as we know, it was literally just cutscenes, and there was like no actual gameplay. But anyways, you know, that just the fact that people can say that now. In their mind, you know, Final Fantasy 15 is a sub what it could have been product. And that's not because of leaks or whatever, obviously. But what if there are tons of games out there that maybe they had a director switch we just don't know about?
Yeah,
that's a very good point. And I'll say that right now, that when Final Fantasy VII Remake was first announced at E3 2015, I remember I was at work at the time. My phone was blowing up. People texting me like, "Dude, you gotta watch this," and they were sending me the links. And it's just like the entire perception was just enormously positive. The reaction online, and now with people talking about, you know, the video you made a couple weeks ago with like the possible troubles going on internally, I just see enormous numbers of people being like, "I have no excitement for this anymore. I hope they scrap it completely. I have no interest in playing this whatsoever. Final Fantasy is dead." Like, it's just mostly negative is what I see. And again, that
positive from that.
I think the real problem is that they announced too early. I've said that 1,000 times before.
Way too early.
But leaks tie into this. If you know something too early, before they've had time to work out the kinks and iron them out and figure out what they're doing and get unified and make the game the right way, if you know beforehand, it's just, I think it's mostly going to have a negative effect most of the time.
Because any change you make, even if you make the game way better, people are going to be like, "Oh, but what was it like?" And it's in their mind. They're going to be like, "Oh, I want to play CyberConnect 2's version of this game. Oh man, Square Enix screwed it up."
Yeah,
that's going to happen now. That's inevitably going to happen now.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for the question, J.R. Shire. Appreciate it. Dude, this cough will not freaking leave me alone. We're moving on to Lassie Paragon for our final question for the night. Do you think it's great that more female characters are becoming leads in video games? I think Square Enix really was a pioneer in this aspect, as Terra and Lightning were leads. I believe Lassie Paragon is also here live. You get to have your question answered live too. He's here as Herpaderp on YouTube. Lassie Paragon elsewhere.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So Square Enix, I think it's a good thing. Stories with girls, with women. Sorry, didn't mean to say girl. Girls or women, I guess, either one. They feel different in a lot of ways. But certain games like Horizon Zero Dawn, you could switch that out for a boy, and I don't think it would change anything. In the game, it's like, you know, she has a lot of very masculine traits, I guess, what traditionally would be considered masculine. But then other games like what was that movie? Child of Light.
Oh, Child of Light, yeah.
Really kind of played off of like a fantastical aspect of the feminine a little bit more, and it was a drastically different game from, you know, other games that I played in that genre. It does change things a bit, but I you know, you got to be careful with your words here, because you don't want to highlight the differences between men and women too much.
Well, it makes me think of like Final Fantasy 15 and people being upset that it was this cast of all men, but that the concept was exploring the idea of brotherhood. That's kind of how you do that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
But then, like you're saying, Child of Light explores sisterhood,
right,
a little bit in there, and it works. It's like what you have to do to do that.
Unique and interesting.
So,
yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I think that there's a lot of ground to cover still, for sure. But I do think Lightning was maybe a little bit shortchanged in that it was so obvious that she was supposed to be essentially female Cloud.
Right.
I think a lot of people see that.
Herberderp did give us a $2 donation. Says, thanks for taking my question. Thank you for asking it. Thanks for giving us something to talk about. And thank you for the donation. Appreciate it.
I would say that Square Enix likely was a pioneer in the aspect. I would not cite Lightning, though, because that was so late. That was like 2008 or 10. When did 13 come out? 2009?
Yeah.
Like, that's well beyond the time of all of, you know, tons of companies had, you know, female protagonists by that point. I put pioneers maybe more in like the, you know, the 1990s, or like Metroid or Tomb Raider, or even some of the Resident Evil games, or Final Fantasy VI. But we've mentioned this several times. Final Fantasy VI, like, Terra is probably the main character, but there isn't really a main character to that game. If you had to tell it the story, or if you had to make a movie out of it, sure, that's who you'd go with. But it was a pretty soft main character in that regard. Whereas the other games, it's pretty obvious. But even aside from having a woman like main character, just the whole party system and the fact that women were always huge pivotal parts of the Final Fantasy games, and they weren't just waiting to be rescued. That I probably did more, you know, than just Final Fantasy VI having the main character be one.
Yeah, I mean, like Final Fantasy X, while I guess Yuna and Titus or Titus are kind of both share the main character slot, but if you're gonna give that,
it's more
to
like
Titus,
Yuna's story,
yeah,
or Yuna's journey, right? But Titus
is there.
You know, it's his possibly.
And I would say the same thing about FF12. FF12, I would say Ash is really more of the prominent lead character for the story purpose than Vaughn. But I think there is something to be said about the fact that in both of those cases, like, they felt the need for a male to be like the face and the main like player character avatar or whatever.
And it was pretty clear that sales were a big concern.
And so I do think that within the last couple of years, you have seen some really strong sales figures to support female lead characters, like the Tomb Raider reboots. I think did an excellent job in how they handled Lara Croft.
Very much so, yeah.
Better, I think, than the original games.
Gosh, the original games, dude. The original games did not. That was not a female protagonist that I think people who advocate for female protagonists wanted. Like the size of her chest, the way she looked, it was clearly oriented towards a male audience, even still. Whereas the new Tomb Raider games, it's like, no, this is a much better approach to a female protagonist than, it's not just meant for the male gaze, as they call it.
Yeah. I think Horizon Zero Dawn, I don't necessarily completely disagree with your take on that character could be swapped. But I do think that for a new IP, the fact that they decided to go with female lead in a new IP, like an unproven property, right? And that it did just extraordinarily well, was a really good thing to see more female lead protagonists in AAA, like high risk sort of titles. That they will sell regardless of the gender of the main protagonist. And then my favorite game from last year, being Hellblade, had Senua in the lead as the lead character, and just phenomenal the way that character's psychology was explored. And I think that we are seeing it a little bit more than maybe we used to. And I think it's a good thing. I really do.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see any way that it's hurt the industry.
Yeah, definitely hasn't hurt it at all. And I think that Horizon Zero Dawn is the total like case in point of how it doesn't hurt, and Tomb Raider too. The Tomb Raider reboots and Horizon Zero Dawn are like case in point, basically, that like it doesn't hurt anything to have a female character on the box art with chin down, eyes up. You don't have to have a gruff male dude with chin down, eyes up on the box art for it to sell. You could also have a female character with chin down, eyes up. It will also sell just as well. And then, I guess they had male and female shepherd, but in Mass Effect games, a lot of people preferred to use female shepherd over male shepherd. Yeah. So I think that was a strong case there to be made as well. So yeah. Most people say FemShep is canonical Shep. That's very true. So, and they actually I remember for Mass Effect 3 in the trailers and the marketing, they used female shepherd
for the third one. That red,
because they did it for in the marketing.
One. The red-haired one.
Nice.
Yep. The red-haired female shepherd. They used her in a lot of the marketing.
They do that poll twice though. They did one. It came out with like a blonde woman, and then they like did it again to get to
see what most people were using.
Well, they different female shepherds that people could vote on. Who the one would be that they would show.
The canon female.
I can't remember, man. That was a while ago.
In Mass Effect Andromeda, they also in the marketing showed mostly the sister of the two characters you could choose. They were the brother and sister. They mostly went with her in all of their marketing stuff as kind of the main character. There was a few here and there where they showed the male, but for the most part, they showed the female character. So
I think it's really smart of them, because people might disparage like representation in games, saying it's tokenism or whatever, but I do think it is important to people. Absolutely. And so like being like say a young girl growing up playing video games, at my age, she would have basically been playing exclusively male protagonists, and it's so obvious that like there's a giant gap in the market for that. You know what I mean?
When I was a kid, I didn't want to play games where you were a girl. Like something like Metroid, you didn't know you were a girl until like just as a 9-year-old kid. Like how J.K. Rowling or Rowling?
Yes.
How do you say it? Rowling or Rowling?
Rowling. I don't know.
I have no idea.
But anyways, J.K. Rowling purposefully used the first letter initials
J and K.
So yeah, so it's not. I can't remember what her first name actually is, but it's like Jane, or it's something that's clearly a female's name. And she decided, hey, I'm just going to use an initial so that nobody really knows, so that boys will read it too. Boys are really shallow like that. Boys don't like girl stuff. I don't know. That's just that's how it is.
Yeah.
And you could say that's social. You could say that's genetic. It's probably a mixture of both. But boys want to, be separate and do their own thing. And so I avoided girl games when I was younger. But all it takes is playing a couple. You play Bayonetta or you play Resident Evil, and you're just like, okay, I don't care anymore. Or Tomb Raider. You just got to do it a little bit, and then it's not a problem.
That a girl game isn't really a thing because but that's the extent to which we've gotten so used to just video games are male as a default, right? But like in movies,
definitely how it was when we were growing up.
Yeah, like in movies,
Joanna,
like
that was her name, Joanna Kathleen Rowling.
Oh, really? Huh? I did not know her name was. You heard it here first.
You probably did. I don't think most people know of her really.
Jeez, I remember though growing up, you wouldn't have caught me dead playing with a Polly Pocket. But there were a lot of girls that I knew that would play with the what was it called? Max Freak. Micro.
Oh yeah, those things where you and the little miniature,
little Max.
Yeah,
what was his name? Anyways,
I want to say Mad Max, but that's not it. Max something. Yeah. I know.
Somebody knows.
Those were cool.
Talking about, but like, it wasn't a two-way street for whatever reason.
Yeah, girls could do boy stuff. Girls could wear black or blue, but guys can't wear pink. Yeah, it was.
But yeah,
gotta play Pocky and Rocky on the Super Nintendo, and then you'll be totally cool with female protagonists.
What did she say?
A game called Pocky and Rocky. I'm pretty sure that was a female character. Hold on, it's Pocky and Rocky. That's a female character, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's a little girl, and then her little Tanuki friend that she travels with. Pocky and Rocky. It's a freaking good game, actually.
The Tanuki in it, it's got to be good. That's
freaking a really good game. I'm trying to think of other examples. FF6, you take over Terra first, and then so that was a pretty good example.
Later.
But you don't really play as her. She's kind of out of commission at the beginning of that game. You're starting off as, one of the other characters, but. I'm trying to think, I think a lot of movies, specifically anime or even more specifically Studio Ghibli movies, they always almost exclusively follow a female protagonist. And those movies are just so good. And they do better probably than any other film other than the early Disney ones at showing like a coming of age tale, right? The coming of age trope. Yeah. They all do that. And it's always a woman. And it's like, or it's always a girl, I guess. And I don't know. They just do a phenomenal job. And that's something I never really cared about when I was, I guess I didn't see any Ghibli films until I was a teenager. But the way it's presented, it wasn't a big deal. Maybe I had just gotten older and I'd matured a little bit more. But I think Pat did a lot more than games did in getting me to be willing to play games like that.
Patrick, thank you so much for the super chat. Shout out to Dark Pixel Crew for talking about the more interesting topics in the game industry. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you very much. Xeno's bio brought up Alice from Phantasy Star. That's one I forgot about. Yes, that's a Sega Master System RPG before Final Fantasy that showed a female in the lead. So that's very true. And then Joshua above him asked about what we think about Shion from Xenosaga. I haven't played it enough, but that is true. Female lead in Xenosaga. So
Perfect Dark. I didn't think twice about Perfect Dark. I didn't care that I was a female. I must have been getting a little older at that one. That was probably 98, 99. So I was like 12 or 13. I wasn't still my 9-year-old self. But Perfect Dark, I remember at no point did I ever think that game was not cool because there was a girl. At no point did I ever think that.
Yep, Perfect Dark was a sweet game. Actually, that might have been... I haven't played that one as recently as GoldenEye. Maybe that's just as badly aged.
It probably is, let's be honest. Umbra Witcher!
Umbra Witcher! Thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much for the super chat. Love the podcast, guys. Thank you for the support, man. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Now, Star Ocean 2, I have not played girls' side. I only played the boys' side. So.
I did. I played the girls' side. I did not like it.
Remember, I almost wonder if the game was maybe prioritizing the boys' side to begin with.
Probably was. Even though Ciri is kind of like the princess Geralt must find Ciri, she's strong on her own stuff. Actually, if you read the Witcher novels in addendum to playing The Witcher 3, Ciri is a very strong female character. And I think for the most part, the Witcher series has very good female characters. So,
oh gosh, Prince Revolver, talking about Sailor Moon. This is actually the thing. It's not Sailor Moon, but the thing that actually got me to just not care and to watch TV shows and movies and do stuff that involved girls as the main character was Powerpuff Girls. I remember Powerpuff Girls. I was like 11-ish.
Powerpuff Girls, so good.
So good. I remember when I first saw it, and I was like, this show is so cool, and it's freaking hilarious. Like, it was so good.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point where I had decided, like, I don't care. Like, I watch Powerpuff Girls. And I would even tell people I watch Powerpuff Girls. I wasn't so secretive about it. And we'd all watch that show.
Powerpuff Girls, so good.
But that's probably that was probably my breakthrough moment of, like, oh, girls can be really cool, and I didn't have to worry about it.
Well, that was around the same time as Kim Possible, which was also
that
Kim Possible was freaking sweet, dude.
Yes,
that show was awesome.
Loved it.
So yeah, I think in general we can we have thought of dozens of examples of great female characters over many years of gaming, and it's true that the demographic early on was definitely male dominated for video games. That was the case back in the 80s and 90s, but it has totally evened out at this point. It's pretty much 50-50 now. And I think that the female leads we're getting in games today are great. Really well-written characters, and I think it's awesome. I think all of us, you guys' wives and my girlfriend, all enjoy playing video games.
Yeah.
Either case, don't
don't
even think about whether the gender of the protagonist. Or usually, it's just like that.
Yeah, it's not awesome, even a big deal.
It looks like a great story, and I want to play that. And so
yeah,
I think
there is one spot where people do get a little tripped up, and it is where games that have traditionally had a male lead all of a sudden switch to a female lead. And I think that's maybe where people get a little bit more upset. Something like the rumor that The Legend of Zelda was going to have, you were going to be able to like choose a female character, where it's like Link is a boy, and all of a sudden it would have the feeling of, oh, like they've changed something that I used to identify with to be something different, like having a female Mario, like okay, or a female. I don't know. I get that Link's a little different because it's technically a different Link in almost every game, so it could very well be a female. But Link as a character is the same character in every game, despite the fact that it's thousands of years apart from the others. I think that's maybe where a lot of people do get a little bit upset, and they get a chip on like the SJWs are out to get him or whatever. I see that like a little bit when some people want to do it, because Marvel does that a lot now with their comic books. So all of a sudden Captain America is a girl, and the next Iron Man is now a girl, and they like to do that. Is it?
Thor's a girl.
Oh, Captain Marvel. Captain
Marvel's the girl. You're right. Yeah, I got that mixed up.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that's true. But they kind of experiment and with changing the character up a little bit, and some people don't like that, and I can see that perspective.
Actually, Josh Sanders bringing up the Hyrule Warriors roster
it's mostly women.
No, well, it was like a 3-to-1 ratio of women to men. For the longest time, I don't know if it's balanced out.
They've added a couple DLC, but I think it's still mostly. I think it's still like 2/3 women
at least. That's really interesting to me. I don't know if that's because you traditionally play as a male character in Link.
You're always Link,
and that there's more interesting female characters to draw on. And maybe no one had just realized that there's just way more interesting female characters in Zelda games. I don't know. Maybe I've never tallied it up, but I remember being like they'd announce new characters every couple weeks whenever that was first launching on the Wii U, I guess. I was always like, oh, holy crap. And like, remember counting it up and it was like, holy crap, this is like almost all women. How many games are doing that right now? You know,
like fighting games like that. Not very many. Although I will also say, around the time the Powerpuff Girls came out, I was playing Street Fighter, and I was always
Chun-Li.
Yeah, Chun-Li is but I never played as Chun-Li. I'd always play as
Cammy.
No, I'd play as a boy,
beret.
but I played against another boy one day who did play as Chun-Li. I was Blanca or something. I was
like being Blanca.
I was always just like, and I'd lose that way, but it was so cool. I'd keep doing it. But somebody played as Chun-Li and did the multi-kick thing, and I was like, what the fetch? That's a cool move. Like, first off, I was surprised he picked a girl. I was probably 10 or so. But then he kicked my butt, and Chun-Li had a sick move. And from that point forward, I would play as Chun-Li, and I'd be like, and then she'll do like her multi-kick. And
is when she wins. She's very masculine presence because she fights. But when she wins, she's like, yeah, very like, I don't know, what's the word? Very super feminine, cutesy, I guess.
Yeah. It's what's his name? Lady Baby or Lady Beard?
Oh,
he does that move a lot in his music videos.
Used to.
Oh, that's true. He left. He's on his own thing now. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh, is he still doing the?
Yeah, but it's a new band. Anyways, he'd always do it because he'd lift one. You can't see me, but he'd lift one foot up and then do this. So fun. He's my favorite. All right.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up for today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, for commenting, for being in the chat with us today. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate your support. We will have a Final Fantasy Friday stream this Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Look forward to that. And another video for you on Monday. So we will see you guys then. Have a great day. Peace out.